but we have Mihika, who's at the dealing room where the other place, apart from a newsroom, where the action is. She's in conversation with Emkay's Global Head, Nirav Sheth, who's joining us live from the dealing room. Take it away, Mihika.
Yes, good morning, Samina. So yes, I am with Mr. Nirav Sheth, the CEO of Institutional Equities at Emkay Global Financial Services. Mr. Sheth, my first question to you is, what's the sentiment among your clients right now?
Well, you can look at my team, this is hustling and bustling, and you can see they are quite quiet. So this is obviously, from what we were expecting, this seems to be a disappointment. And if BJP runs short of an absolute majority, even though NDA comes with a majority, market will reassess the entire trajectory of the policy and how we want to look at budget and the introspection in terms of what the government wants to do, because this is a shocker, if nothing else, probably coming from the worst possible scenario. From what we hear right now, that even Mr. PM Modi seems to be trailing in Varanasi. So obviously, this is a big disconnect.
Yes. And what kind of sectors are your clients interested in buying in right now?
Well, there's a big sea change in terms of what was there yesterday and what was there right now, right? So the whole idea was that you're going to reset the infrastructure level, you want to reset the investment to GDP ratio. If you look at the last 3 years, probably the first time since India's independence that your capital expenditure was higher than revenue expenditure. The question is that you've not been able to sell this politically to your constituents, right? So, the whole thing you will do reassess in terms of, what kind of cabinet you are forming, what kind of policy direction you are taking. But those things are different. First, I would believe that given the kind of run-up that you've seen in the markets, there could be a sizable sell-off if BJP doesn't get an absolute majority on its own.
And in terms of sectors, are there any sectors that do stand out?
Well, right now, so, in one of the interviews I said yesterday that, it is about alpha. It's about beta, sorry, not about alpha. The question is that whether you want to buy Indian equity assets or not, right? Today, after the dislocation, assuming that, NDA doesn't come in absolute majority, we need to reassess that at least till that time that valuations come back to a mean reversion.
And, when you talk about the differential in valuations, what is the differentiation in valuations between the large and the small caps?
Well, I'm not talking so much about the large and the small caps. The small caps are growing faster and therefore they are priced at a premium. But all this is contingent upon the fact that you can see 5 years out, 10 years out, your valuations eventually are a function of longevity of the earnings. Like I said, eventually if you look at the history long enough, these things don't necessarily matter, right? But the fact of the matter is that there was so much built up in anticipation for all of us, right? Because we believe that, India has gone to a stage where economics has started driving politics. And I don't think that, you've ever seen the PM not ever getting a majority. Right, from that time he was Chief Minister in Gujarat. So assuming, again, I'm coming back to the same question, that if you assume that BJP doesn't come back on its own in absolute majority, a lot of questions will be raised.
And, so far we've seen FIIs selling, but given we have government stability and the FIIs do start coming in, do you expect more large funds towards the large caps? Yeah,
that was our expectation. So assuming that, you don't have any change in political establishment and the story continues, then I was forcing a very, very strong surge in FI inflows.
Okay. And given a scenario that we do see government continuity, what are your top sectors that you would like to stay invested to or buy into right now?
Well, it now depends upon whether you're coming back to power and are you coming back to power with a reasonable majority, right? So I'm saying anything above 300 is only of academic interest. I don't care about it. But you need BJP with 270, you need NDA at about 300. I think the story continues because they will be able to figure out, right? So I don't think that the basic DNA of BJP will change in terms of how they, how they want to reset the economic growth rate of the country forward. What will change probably is the way they start communicating to people at large, right? Because they have to sell the agenda because they eventually want to get voted back to power.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Sheth, for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
That's the view from the Emkay Global dealing room. Nirav Sheth giving his thoughts. What we need to do, by the way, as we, just before we take that break, and I think this is important to lay out, that while the leads are coming in as they are, and it's NDA 293 now, those numbers which were static for a really long time have started inching up a bit.